Hi, this is Adam from Game Watcher, and this is our review of Never Alone. A collaborative project between the Alaskan natives and the Seattle-based Upper One Games, Never Alone is an artful platformer that's more of an educational video than, say, a Limbo-like video game. It's really heavy on cultural information, and this, blended with the atmospheric platformer landscape the game presents, makes for a truly beautiful and personal experience. But it isn't without its faults, and enjoyment of this thoughtful game is going to be tempered with some severe pacing issues and some pretty uninteresting gameplay. That said, it's still a quiet and meditative example of how video games can evolve into meaningful, if flawed, designs. Playing as Nuna, a young native girl, you and your mysterious white fox must traverse the frozen landscapes of the north and evade the many threats the story sends your way. Controls are very basic, and the first few levels you'll do little more than jump and brace yourself against the strong wind, which is a pretty bad threat which can blow you off icebergs and into the fatally cold water. Further in, Never Alone gives you a few items to use. A bowler is like a ranged slingshot that can shatter certain ice barriers and activate spirits, helping ethereal forms that provide temporary platforms for you to jump on with the aid of the fox. As there's two characters, you'll also get to switch between them in order to progress. The fox can scuttle up higher ledges and jump further than Nuna, throwing down ropes for her to climb up. The game allows you for you to switch roles at any time, or have a friend take control in local co-op, although on the PC I found that to be quite difficult with the keyboard, and it appears to be controller only. The levels get more complicated the further you progress, although they're never quite on the same scale as a game like Limbo, for example. And it suffers from a few pacing issues as well. Given that it's quite a short game, it's far too slow in the beginning for an average gamer. This is a tricky issue, as Never Alone feels like it's a game that's targeted towards a much younger audience, but in essence the game itself isn't incredibly gripping for a young child either, so it's difficult to know which direction the developers were hoping it would take in the first place. It's also an experience that's over just far too quickly, especially after its slow start. I felt I was just getting to grips with the characters and where the story was going and the world that was being creative before the credits rolled. I usually applaud a concise experience like, say, Transistor, but Never Alone felt like it was just about to get going before it ended. None of these criticisms are particularly fatal to the experience, as Never Alone is a beautiful and touching tale about friendship and the cultural life of the Alaskan Inuit. Each level unlocks certain video content that tells you more about the Inupiaq and their history. These clips are short and don't outstay their welcome if you want a brief reprieve from the game. Some of them need to be unlocked first by requiring hidden or hard to reach areas, but there's nothing really too taxing if you really want to get all of them. If there is a fatal flaw though, it's with the AI controlled character that takes over when you're not occupying it. Here, the computer tries to keep up with your movements as you progress across the screen. Unfortunately though, it often fails, allowing someone to fall to their death or get stuck behind objects. Once one of you dies, it's game over, and back to the most recent checkpoint. It's not a major problem, as Never Alone is pretty generous with these checkpoints, but it never lets you feel that the AI is capable of doing a basic task. It's annoying and irritating when you're penalised for mistakes that you didn't make in the first place. As you can see, on the PC Never Alone looks gorgeous, and its art style runs without any problems on a pretty reasonable mid-range machine. The only other major problem is with the controls. A controller is essential for the best experience, and you'll need two if you and a friend want to play co-op. With a game like Never Alone, I really feel conflicted about being too critical about it. For some players, this will be a touching, beautiful and moving example of how video games have evolved into an art form that can genuinely touch lives and crystallise history of a culture that is all too perilously close to being extinct. For most gamers though, I have a feeling Never Alone will be a transient experience, filled with frustration at its slow pace, slightly awkward controls in later stages and some AI problems. It's not as upfront or as complex, say, as Valiant Hearts, nor is it as polished as Limbo. It's kind of in the middle. That said, Never Alone is still a beautiful game. It's full of fairy tale delight and educational knowledge, and has a very slightly unsettling, creepy feel to it. It isn't as patronising as educational titles might sound, as it keeps the two pretty well separated, enabling you to take or leave as much of the cultural content as you like. It struggles though with being a compelling video game with its slow start, short running time and AI issues. It comes away respectful of its inspiration and educational as well, but to be honest it probably won't last long in the memory as a gaming experience. Never Alone scored 7 out of 10.